Hey, all right, there we are. Hey, hi, oh, it's me, John Park, and welcome to John Park's workshop. This is it, we're in the workshop, and we are ready to go. Thanks everyone for coming on over to the Discord chat to hang out, and also in the YouTube chat, welcome. Someone asked a question about what's Steven Universe. You can see it right here, it says Steven Universe Gems. Steven Universe is a cartoon, an animated series on Cartoon Network. And if you're not familiar with it, go check it out. It's really pretty innovative and interesting. I had never watched it before, but I just started checking it out recently, and it's really pretty dang cool. So let's get started, first of all, with a little announcement. We've got the jobs board that you should go and check out. That's jobs.adafruit.com, and you can head on over there. And let me pop up my browser window real quick. Let's see, where'd you go, browser window? There we go, jobs. And is a free jobs board, first of all, which is fantastic. Unheard of, right? It's free to post if you have a position you're looking to fill. And it's also free to post your info if you're looking to attract someone to hire you. And that's for contract work, part-time, full-time. There's all kinds of interesting things on there. I see there's a couple of game jobs up there, 3D Generalist at Iridium and 3D Environmental Artist at Iridium. And then we've also, I know we've mentioned there's a Community Manager opening at Hackaday, which you should definitely check out. They do all kinds of cool community stuff. I'm sure that involves things like the Super Conference, as well as other outreach and events they do. But who knows? Read the posting and see if it's something you'd be interested in. It's a contract position. So that is jobs.adafruit.com. You should go check it out. You really should. And hey, while I've got this, while I've got your attention here, let's take a look at the coupon code for the day. That's 10% off in the store, adafruit.com, using the coupon code FUSION. And if you want to go and fill up your cart with all kinds of good stuff, new products, old products, standbys, things that you haven't filled up on a while. Maybe you need header pins, right? I bet you're low on header pins. Go get some, and then you'll get 10% off with the coupon code FUSION. And that is good on all things that you could possibly buy on Adafruit other than gift certificates, subscriptions, and software. So speaking of stuff that you can get, here's my product of the week this week. It is, whoa, not that. It is, get ready for it. Right there. It's the Joy Bonnet Pack. So let me bring up my browser so I can get this one, the title on this one right. This is the Joy Bonnet Pack without soldering, including the Pi Zero WH. Here's the entry for it. So that gets you, I have one right here. So this is a Pi Zero with header pins that are pre-soldered on there for you on the GPIO slot. And then you've got the Joy Bonnet, which is pre-soldered, ready to go, has female header pins on it, so you can just take the two, press them together, and it comes with this cool little case, little Mike Dole designed case. And now you've just got your power and HDMI, as well as one extra USB if you want to connect up another peripheral. But that's ready to go as a little game controller. You can use it as a navigator for other things. And there is already a very easy to use disk image that you put on the SD card to put on here for using the MakeCode Arcade and driving it right from the Pi Zero. So we're going to take a look at Arcade. We're going to start taking a look at Arcade today, and this might be the way that you want to play around with Arcade. There's a few ways available, but that's the product of the week. That's the Joy Bonnet Pack. So I'm going to take another dangerous sip of tea. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself, because I'm always burning myself. Okay, it went better that time. I'm learning, I'm getting better. So why don't we do this? I want to intro the MakeCode Arcade, and then I'm actually going to launch into a little piece of info and training on MakeCode Arcade inside the MakeCode Minute. But before we launch into the MakeCode Minute, I'll say MakeCode Arcade, if you're not familiar with it, is a extension of or variation on MakeCode. And if you're used to MakeCode for using a graphical interface to create programs to run on microcontrollers. This is a version of it that is specifically targeted at creating games, and you can use it for creating games that you play on your computer as well as games that you play right on a microcontroller using a small TFT screen. So let's have a look. All right, well, let's have a look at creating sprites inside of MakeCode Arcade. If you're not familiar with sprites, sprite is a term used in the early days of game graphics to describe something that was a graphic that was moving around on screen separate from the screen buffer of the background. And so it's usually players. For example, on the Atari 2600, the spec said you could have 2 players, 2 missiles, and a ball. So there were 5 objects that could move around on the screen. So in our case now, we just describe, we use sprite to describe kind of anything that you create that isn't the background in the game, and usually something that can move separately from the background. So you can see here this is arcade.makecode.com. What I have is an Adabot head here, which is my character. And the way I've created that is I've got an on-start loop, and then I went to sprites and said, bring in this one, which is the create, set my sprite to sprite, and then we have a little graphic area and of a certain kind. So we'll get into some of that in more detail, but first of all, let's just take a look at this sprite editor. So one of the things that you can do is select from a gallery of pre-made sprites, or you can go ahead and design your own. So I created an Adabot here, and you can see the types of controls we have are really simple. We have a limited little color palette here. Let's go ahead and make a purple Adabot. So I'm going to use this purple color, and I'm going to use a paint bucket tool, and that lets me just flood fill in an area with a color. I could switch over to the pencil and draw in these antennas here. And how about some gold teeth? So I can grab a bigger brush, and now this gives me, that's what we want, we want that gold tooth. So now that I'm done, I simply hit X to close it, and you'll see after a moment it's going to update the screen here, and we will have our new purple Adabot. Now, if you take a look at the overhead here, I've got this is a Feather M4 and a little TFT screen on a breadboard, and I've also got some buttons there. So now I can move my sprite around. I haven't updated it to that gold tooth version, but this is the one that I had loaded on there. And we will talk in the future about moving sprites around. But that is the most basic element of the game, which is the game sprite. And that's how you can create one inside of MakeCode Arcade. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm particularly excited because up until 1 hour ago, I didn't have a screen, but the UPS delivery came in, and I was able to put together, breadboard this little, let me go to a bigger screen here for you for a second, and hide the, let's hide that one here, I'll go over here. So there you can see I've got sort of a weird arrangement of buttons here, but it was quick and easy to fit onto this breadboard this way. So I've got an A and a B button, and then I've got the direction buttons as well as my screen. And actually that screen looks better on this overhead camera from an angle. You'll see that it's actually blue. Let me hold it up to this camera here. And you can see, if I get the glare off of there, we get a nice saturated color, and it looks good from side angles there. It just doesn't look so great on my down shooter for whatever reason, so I might have to tame that. But anyway, I'm super excited to be getting going with MakeCode Arcade. So we'll be spending some MakeCode minutes from here going forward for a little while, just diving into creating games and creating game assets inside of MakeCode Arcade. So go check it out. You don't even need a microcontroller. In fact, as you can see from, where'd my screen go? This is inside the editor. I can actually go full screen with the editor, and I can use arrow keys to play the game, including spacebar and enter for A and B, or I can click on those things. I don't think I have A and B doing anything right now, do I? No. I can bring up a menu, all kinds of exciting, cool stuff. Go back to a smaller screen. And we can reset the game there. So that's just getting started with MakeCode Arcade. If you're familiar with Scratch, it has clearly a lot of similarities. But I think that I haven't used Scratch to create games that go on microcontrollers before, but this one is sort of specially suited for it. It's been designed by the team at Microsoft to do just that. So there's quite a few platforms that you can put it on, and right now we have a Learn guide out that shows how to use it on the Raspberry Pi Zero, as well as an Itsy Bitsy M4 or a Feather M4. All right, well, now I want to get into our project of the week, and this is actually going to be a fairly MakeCode-centric episode this week because I am using MakeCode to create these gems from Steven Universe. So if you're not familiar with Steven Universe, it's a Cartoon Network show, and we now have this exciting partnership with Cartoon Network and Microsoft to use the Cartoon Network characters from some of their shows to help get people interested in learning with microcontrollers and make code. So if you're not familiar with it, go check out Steven Universe and check out, in this case, the character Garnet. And if you look in this show, there's a number of characters that are called crystal gems, and they have gems, gemstones on their costumes or on their bodies. This character Garnet has a gemstone in each palm. So I decided I wanted to create a version of the gemstone that you could wear in your palm. So let me grab that. Hide this graphic here. I'm going to show you. So this is what I've created here, and we'll take a look at how that's built in a moment. First, I just want to demo it. So I'm going to, if you saw the show and tell last night, I demoed this. What I'm going to do is turn it on, and you can see here I've got my colors lit up. And so in the reality of the show, it has this concept of gems, crystal gems, fusing. And so there are two characters who are Ruby and Sapphire. They're red and blue, and they fuse together to form a new character called Garnet. So what I've got now is I just realized you can hear this microphone better. We'll look at we'll talk about the music in a bit. So you can see now I've gone to magenta, and then I can unfuse by hitting the other button, and now we've gone back to red and blue. So let's we're going to do this a couple of different ways. So yeah, that's a good point. Mr. Certainly said in the Discord chat. This might be repurposed as an Iron Man repulsor. There's a lot of things. It's actually very, very simple to put together, but there's a lot of cases where having sort of a light-up object that can also be reactive to sound, can be reactive to light, shake, button presses, and this is a really easy way to put that together. So you do not have to feel constrained by Steven Universe if that's not your thing. I think there are plenty of costume opportunities where you could use this. So let me jump back into MakeCode. And I'm going to hop into this other, here we go, hello other tab. So in this other tab, this is regular MakeCode, makecode.adafruit.com, not the arcade one. And so what I've got going, we're going to talk about sort of the two somewhat separate pieces of this as the light functions and the sound functions. So if I zoom in here and bring this up, you can see that on start, ignoring sound stuff, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my brightness. So by default, the NeoPixels on a Circuit Playground Express, when you use MakeCode, will come in with a brightness value of 20, and that's out of a possible 255, right? I think. Yes, that's crazy bright. So I'm going to drop it down to, what did I have it at? 30 when we start up. And I'm using the light category here to bring in that set brightness block as well as this show ring block. So a show ring block, you can see it's a very easy way to program the NeoPixels without calling them by number, just by pressing a color and clicking it. Oh, that's green, so you can't see that because of my green screen. So let's go back to half blue and half red. Now, that's what happens when the board starts up, and it's just going to stay that way until you do something. So the two inputs that I have here are on button A click and on button B click. So I'm getting those by heading over here to input, and we would just drag in. There's on button A click. I already have one, so I don't need it. I'll trash that. So when button A, and then you can choose if it's a long click, a regular click, and just the down or just the upstroke. So I'm just a regular old click. First thing I'll do is show a little sparkle animation. So you can see here in the light category, there's this show animation block, and you can drag one of those in and choose from some pre-canned animations, which is, you know, not customizable, but it's really convenient because it's just a single slim block instead of writing more code to create a custom animation, which is very fun and very possible, but it's also, in this case, not necessary. By the way, here's a little tip for you in MakeCode. If you want to throw away, there's a couple ways to throw away blocks. You can right-click and just say delete block. You can right-click and duplicate a block and then drag it in. Sometimes when I want to reorder, I will drag above the current block and do things and then decide, yeah, I'm ditching that one, but it keeps it around instead of deleting it. Whichever block you grab, it always moves the blocks below it. They're sort of sticky to it. So I'm just showing this little sparkle animation for a tiny moment, a third of a second, or a little less than a third of a second, so 300 milliseconds here. Ignore this function that I'm calling, and then you can see we're showing this ring. So this is actually, button A returns us to this red-blue state. So sort of more importantly is what happens when we press button B, which is on button B click, I'm showing a different animation for a second and a half, and it's this color sweep or comet animation. Then I am changing the ring to all pink. Now, I'm using this block only because it's easy to see the correlation between the two. There's actually a more convenient block for this sort of thing, which is set all pixels to a certain color. So I'm going to grab this guy, move him off to the side for a second. So you can see I can just pick the, is that the pink I'm using? I don't think it is, actually. I think that one's rendering wrong. I can pick the pink solid color there, and this one I wouldn't really need. But I'm just keeping this consistent by using the ring style graphic for that. Then again, ignoring a call function to a song, and then I'm actually kind of flashing the brightness. So here I'm using set brightness. I'm going up to a value of 120. Bring that over here. Just for a half a second, and then I drop it back down. So have a look. Again, when I press the second button, so that's that B button, you'll see it does that color sort of comet. Now it's playing the song. I said to ignore that for now, but it's hard to ignore when it's playing. And then it's going to flash. Bloop, bloop, and back. Okay, and so now let's look at, again, what button, let me drag this down a little bit, what button A does. So looking at that graphic now, and I'll press the A button, and it's going to sparkle briefly and then go back to our red and blue. Okay, so why don't we head to, oh, you know what, let's talk about the music now for a second. So I said to ignore that, but now it's time to stop ignoring that. So you can see one of the first things I'll do is in my on-start block, I'm setting the tempo, which is the beats per minute of the song. This, I just tune it until I like it because I don't believe this is accurate to real world from just my experience. When I say, you know, 90 beats per minute, it feels like it's a heck of a lot faster than that. So I think there may be something funny going on there. So tune that number. Again, you get, I think, a 0 to, okay, 400. What did I have it at? 50 something? 52? So I'm setting the tempo. That means when music plays and it uses a hold on a tone, it's going to respect that as the base tempo. So here's how I'm using these functions. So rather than go here into music and choose play a tone for a certain amount of time, play a tone for a certain amount of time, maybe put in a rest and continue, inside of this click block, I decided that was going to get kind of long and messy, so I moved it over to a separate function. And this is really just a way to keep track of things and prevent yourself from having ginormous blocks with everything in them. So let's head over here, and you can see that function called bleep song 2. There's no reason it's called 2. That was just from my workflow. I ended up with 2 of them. And I'm not using the first one anymore. So bleep song 2, you can see this function. What this does is it plays a tone. So start with a high C. Hit here. And if I, you can't hear that, but if I play that right on this little piano keyboard, you'll hear it come out of a computer speaker, which is very convenient when you're working on these. And then you can set the duration in these units. So you've got a whole step, half, quarter, eighth, 16th, or 2 steps, 4 steps that it'll play for. If you need a dotted note, what I found is that I just string together. I don't need them in this case, but when I need a dotted note, I'll string together like a quarter and an eighth to give myself a dotted quarter note. So this basically is playing this little, it's almost like an arpeggio. I'm just playing C, G, A, C, G, A, C, G, A, C, G, A quickly, so I get that little kind of sound. And rather than me pretending to make the sound, let me make it into my microphone. Where is it? Here you go. Okay, so that function plays the music, but the way I call it is over here in this button A click. So when I call that function bleep song, MakeCode runs over and says, all right, what are we playing? We're playing this. Okay. So you can see now on button B click, I'm playing the theme song from Steven Universe. That's easy to say. And here it is. So I'm going to zoom out a bit. And you get the idea what's going on here. I've got just, I think, the first 4 measures or so of the song. Looks like that. So you can see why it's useful to break things out into functions. In fact, I've done songs inside of MakeCode that are longer. Back during the AdaBox 007, I did some spy themes, and I did the whole James Bond theme. So that I broke into multiple functions because there's a sort of a roadmap to the song where you play the A section, the B section, the A section, the C section, the A section, the B section twice, and so on. So again, rather than having 500 block long single block, I made functions within functions. So that's one of the best ways I've found to deal with creating songs inside of MakeCode. Here I decided to stick it inside of, none of this repeats, so there wasn't really a reason to break it up. And you can see here I've got, again, playing notes. Some of these, if you see the same note happen twice, it's actually just because I'm trying to do the dotted, so here's a dotted half note, so I have an E, middle E twice, and then I've got rests in here. So when I hit the button B, getting from the animation to the solid color, and then this call function theme song, it runs over here and we'll play this theme song. So let's have a listen to that. So I'm going to press the B button. And there you go. So that's how you can create a song inside of MakeCode and have it play when you do something. Now, let's have a look at 2 things. First of all, because particularly the note writing in the music is a bit tedious, I wanted to show, and I don't show this too often, but one of the really neat things about MakeCode is that you have this Blockly graphical interface to create things, but you can also go in and edit the JavaScript. And so that's a little hard to see. Hold on, I'm going to take off the green screen for a moment. There you go, that's a little better. So you can see here, this is, if I zoom out, how's that look? That's pretty legible. This is that theme song block here. I don't know why I call it theme song 22, maybe that is what I called it. Inside of here, we have a analogous to that function where I had all those blocks. Here we instead have these lines of text that say, here is the frequency of the pitch that you're playing in hertz. So if you're familiar with a notion of A being 440 hertz, a A440, there's an A440. And then we're telling it how long to play it for, which is this beat fraction quarter. And the main reason that I bring that up is that if you wanted to transcribe a longer song, oh my god, I'm inside the code, and you're comfortable inside of a text editor or programming IDE, you may find it easier to work inside of here where you can copy and paste and adjust things in text if it's really long versus doing it inside of the blocks. So it's an option, and you'll see here, as long as you keep everything legal in your JavaScript, and it'll tell you if it's not, you can pop back over to blocks, and you can see here's the blocks. So if we go over and decide, hey, you know what, I'm going to change the opening note to be middle A as well, I can just edit that right here, and then head back to blocks, and now you'll see my song has a middle A as the first note. And then we can change that back up to, where was it? Down at a C, right? Or was it a middle C? I bet it was a middle C. There we go. And that'll transfer back. What I've noticed with these is sometimes it rearranges where things are placed. As you edit back and forth, you'll find it's kind of lost the notion of where you had dragged things, so you may have to do some rearrangement. So I don't love to go back and forth a ton. Hey, look, now that thing's in my face, for example. But you may find that that's more convenient. In fact, I think at one point someone had written a parser to go from the ringtone language into this. And I know I've used that before. If you look up ringtones, ringtones have a sort of text-based, or are a text-based description of notes that sometimes is easier to find a melody online and correlate it to this. Looking over in the chat, user Frank Schmidt says, note that in my experience when copying text in JavaScript and pasting for new stanzas from one example to another, MakeCode does not allow pasting text in JavaScript with right or left mouse buttons. Oh yeah, so you might have to use Command or Control V to paste in there. Good tip. The other thing I'll mention about the JavaScript is that is often how I copy my MakeCode around, because there's not a universal login or anything currently in MakeCode. So I'll back it up just by saving it to a shared drive somewhere so I can open it up else on another computer. Okay, so let's jump over briefly. I know we're running low on time, but let's jump over briefly to the workbench, and I'll show you how I put together this little case. Let me hide that. And then we'll also look at the dual gem version. So first, heading over here, so you can see here I've got, let me crank up my exposure a bit. I've got a 3 AAA battery pack that is the kind that has a belt clip, and so I've got that clipped to this watch band. And this is just a watch band. You could use rubber bands, you could use pipe cleaners, you could use all sorts of things. But the kind of key ingredient here is that I've got the really great Circuit Playground Express case, this polycarbonate enclosure designed by Mike Dole, which allows you to thread a loop of some kind of material right through there. It could be a Velcro strap, elastic, and so on. So that makes it really convenient to attach this to your wrist or your hand like I did. So I just connected it there, and off we go. Now, so for this other example, I'm going to turn on a couple of batteries here, USB batteries, and I'm going to drop the exposure back down. And so what you'll see here is I have 2 Circuit Playground Expresses, and they're both running the same code. Oh, that battery just went off. Let's see if it died or if it just went off. All right, hopefully that'll stay on. Now watch, when I press the B button on this one, it actually changed both of them. And I can do that with either one of them. And the A button will change both of them as well. Oh, it missed. So what I'm using here is infrared. So I've got the IR transmitter and the IR receiver on both of them. And so you can send your message from one to the other. Yeah, this battery is mostly dead. Whoops. Just by pressing the button on one, and that means you're going to get synced up timing between them if you actually point them at each other. Oh yeah, there we go. I'm trying to angle it so you can see. So that's pretty good for synced timing. I also think I keep putting my finger in the way. I didn't want to complicate the code on this too much, so I didn't use tilt, but I think tilt would be a really fun way to initiate that. So if we hop over here real quick, I'm going to show you what that code looks like, as well as my copy and paste of my code. So I'm going into my text editor, Atom, and I'm just copying some text. And now in MakeCode, I'm going to go to JavaScript, and I'm going to paste the code in, and then when I come back over to blocks, we can see, so here's the Duo version. And what I've done here is, oh, I actually don't need the tempo. I'm not using the music in here because there are problems with IR and sound playing in the same sketch right now. There's a bug report in, so don't try to do the sound and the IR. But otherwise, what I'm doing is on a button A click, just like before, I'm doing the animation and setting the colors, but I'm also sending an infrared signal. And the signal is, it kind of doesn't matter what it is, but I'm sending a 0 when I press the A button, and I'm pressing a 1, or sending a 1 when I press the B button. And then both of the CircuitPlayground and Expresses are running the same code, and this code includes this on infrared receive. When it receives, the num variable is just the default, but when it receives a message, it checks the message that's coming, and it says, okay, if that message was this 0, then we'll do the red and blue animation, and if it's a 1, the else just says kind of anything else, then we're going to do the garnet or pink magenta animation. So that's a way that you can sync up a couple of these, so you don't have to hit them both at the same time, but you can have them in your hands and just press one of them and you've got them synced up, or you can do it with a partner. So those are a couple different ways that you can use the CircuitPlayground Express with MakeCode to do this type of light animation, sound, and also syncing them up. So I hope you found that interesting. I'm going to be writing up a guide on that, and it'll be really easy if you even just only have a CircuitPlayground Express. You don't need any other stuff, a USB cable and a computer. You'll be able to download that code and put it on, and then start altering it and changing it and adjusting it for different colors, write your own songs, and so on. So with that, let's, oh, I want to show you one other quick thing, which is in my MakeCode Arcade, let me show you this version over here. The JavaScript for that, pop back onto here and hide that. If you look at the JavaScript for this, I'm going to get rid of my green screen. That's what my Adabot, the code for my Adabot head is in JavaScript. So it's using this bitmap, where it says either we have an empty square, which is a dot, or we have a square with one of the colors from our color palette in there. So what I did earlier was I copy and pasted a bunch of those into my editor, and I'm going to go ahead and paste those in now, and then what you'll see is a whole bunch of characters. That works. Let's see. Oops, is that the right one? No, I copied the wrong one. Sorry about that. I just broke it. There we go. So you can see here we've got bunches of characters all laid out as their little sort of ASCII bitmapped selves. And if I go full screen with that, I can use my arrow keys to move them around. So I've built a little Adabot and Ohm and Hans and Cappy, Minerva, Ruby. I'm actually going to talk about how we're doing this motion stuff in a future episode, but you can see it's a lot of fun when you start getting just a little bit of sophistication going on with the movement controls. It's a lot of fun what you can do, and you can put that onto your little device and play it on the TFT screen instead. So with that, I will thank you again so much for coming by for John Park's workshop. If you want to go and get some of these good things that you can use, like CircuitPlayground Expresses and those really cool Mike Dole cases, or TFT display and a Feather M4 to start working with Arcade. We're going to have a lot of cool Arcade tutorials coming out. Then why not go to the store and get 10% off with coupon code FUSION? I say do it. Why not? So thank you so much for stopping by, and I will be hanging out in the Discord chat for a little while more. And I'll thank you again so much for coming by, and I'll see you next week.